of Trikona Rashi. Capricorn belongs to the Earth Trikona, while Aquarius belongs to the Kama system. And within these two states comes the sign of the Libra, in which Saturn exists. All the early signs are sexual by nature. In fact, the more intellectual you are, the more you are sexual by nature. Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius are highly intellectual signs as well as also highly sexual signs by nature. And it is necessary to remember that in the natural Kundalini, that is in the Kalapurush Kundalini, the seventh house contains the sign of the river, and Saturn takes high in the sign of the river. So it is very natural that Saturn plays a vital role when it comes to happiness in sexual life or marriage as such. So all and all, Saturn simply loves the Kama Trikona, that is the sexual angle, and Artha Trikona, that is the economical angle, which brings the fact out that Saturn does extremely well in the six zodiac signs of Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. So now coming to the question of having retrograde Saturn in these six signs, the outcome remains positive. So if you have a retrograde Saturn in Gemini, in Libra, in Aquarius, in Taurus, in Virgo, or in Capricorn, then you don't have to worry much. You are going to get positive results, though a little late in life. Similarly, if your retrograde Saturn is in the third house, seventh house, 11th house, second house, sixth house, or 10th house, then too you will get positive results though late in life. However, please note that the retrograde Saturn in the third, seventh, 11th, second, sixth, and 10th house must be in the sign of Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn. Only then you will enjoy the positive results of retrograde Saturn in your chart. Then the Mahadasha of such a retrograde Saturn will prove highly beneficial in your life. So far, I have discussed positive signs and positive house placement for retrograde Saturn. However, now I will briefly discuss the negative signs and negative house placements for retrograde Saturn. Saturn resides the Dharma Trikona Rashi. Dharma Trikona Rashis are hardliners. They are extreme in their outlook or behavior, and Saturn is always balanced. Saturn is moderate by nature. Saturn is not an extremist by nature. If you observe closely, then the politics of every country is divided in two parts, moderate and extremist. In the US, the Democrats are moderate while the Republicans are extremist. In India, Congress is moderate while BJP is an extremist. In fact, our freedom struggle movement was also divided in Bhagat Singh, Savarkar, Tilak were on the side of extremism, while Mahatma Gandhi, Nehru, and Vallabhbhai Patel were moderate. In our school history book, we had chapters on moderate and extremist leaders of our freedom movement. So Saturn is not an extremist. Saturn is moderate by nature, and so the extreme signs of Dharma Trikona do not match with the qualities of Saturn, and so Saturn is debilitated in Aries, the very first sign of Dharma Trikona. Dharma Trikona Rashi such as Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius has the quality of doing too much, and Lao Tzu says too much is the only sin. And so Saturn describes Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Whenever Saturn falls within three signs of the Dharma Tripura, you are bound to get a good lesson from Lord Saturn. As far as the moksha tripod rashis are concerned, Saturn precisely does well in Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, but only if your horoscope is inclined towards spirituality. And so now I will mention the signs that Saturn dislikes. The signs that Saturn dislikes are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Similarly, Saturn is not comfortable in the fourth house, fifth house, and ninth house. Many people assume that Saturn does well in the ninth house, but I have seen many men and women with Saturn in the ninth house, and they face many issues related to their relation with fathers, attaining higher education, and challenges in long travel and difficulties in learning the higher sciences of the human life. Remember, Saturn hates religious hardliners. Saturn hates pomp and show off, and Saturn hates war and violence. So now, when retrograde Saturn is in the first, fifth, and ninth house, you should expect a negative result because even a normal Saturn in these houses gives negative results. And so, retrogression would make matters worse than otherwise. I will now begin by sharing the general essence of retrograde Saturn in all 12 houses. I am sure that most of my close followers would have already guessed the outcome based on the briefing so far. So let's begin. Retrograde Saturn in first house. This is a very negative placement. The person suffers from self-doubt, lacks confidence, and is constantly thinking about whether he is doing the right thing or not. It takes time for such a person to understand the reality of life. This position of retrograde Saturn impacts health, and the person suffers in life due to constant health issues. It may happen that during old age, such a person may become bedridden. I would say such a placement proves somewhat positive only when retrograde Saturn is in Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. If retrograde Saturn is not placed in these signs, then the person suffers from self-doubt, has low confidence, is timid, and is not progressive by nature. Such a placement restricts the person from expressing his feelings to another person. Self-expression is blocked. Usually, such a man finds difficulty in expressing love, and failure in love matters is also possible with this placement. Overall, not a good placement for retrograde Saturn. The retrograde Saturn in second house. This is a positive placement. The person slowly and steadily builds fortune for himself. It is an excellent placement for those associated with banking and wealth management. The person suffers especially if the sign is not suitable to Saturn's nature. As excellent